Every conspiracy begins with a question someone wasn't supposed to ask.
On the 23rd of May, 1989, a young man drove into a forest near Gifhorn in northern Germany. He took a can of gasoline with him. His name was Karl Koch. He was 23 years old, and for the last years of his life, he had been convinced that the number 23 was following him, that it appeared too often in too many places to be chance, that it was a signal, a pattern, a message from something larger. He believed the Illuminati were real. He believed they were everywhere, and he believed he was caught inside their design. His burned body was found 3 weeks later. The official ruling was suicide. To this day, some doubt it, which is, in its own way, the most fitting epitaph for a man who spent his final years unable to believe that anything was ever simply what it appeared to be. This is an episode about a secret society that was destroyed in 1785, and about why, more than 200 years later, it killed Karl Koch. Part 1. The order that actually existed. Here is the first thing almost nobody knows about the Illuminati. They were real, and they barely lasted a decade. On the 1st of May, 1776, a professor named Adam Weishaupt founded a secret society in the Bavarian city of Ingolstadt. He was a teacher of canon law, church law, at the local university, and he had been educated by the Jesuits, the most disciplined and organized religious order in the Catholic world. Weishaupt despised the Jesuits' control over knowledge and education, but he admired how they were built. So he did something that tells you almost everything about how these patterns work. He copied the structure of the organization he hated in order to fight it. The order of the Illuminati was modeled directly on the Jesuit hierarchy. Ranks, grades, levels of initiation, absolute obedience to superiors. Weishaupt wanted to replace religious authority with reason, with Enlightenment values, science, liberty. But to do it, he borrowed the architecture of the very institution he was trying to overthrow. The form gets inherited, even by its enemies. Hold on to that. It comes back. Members took secret names from classical antiquity. Weishaupt called himself Spartacus, after the slave who rebelled against Rome. His chief organizer, Baron von Knigge, was Philo. Locations had code names. The order had its own calendar, its own cipher, its own rituals. And here is the detail that should sound familiar if you watched our last episode. To rise from one level to the next, a new member had to submit a report. In it, he had to list the books he owned. He had to name his enemies, and he had to describe the weak points of his own character. The order collected the vulnerabilities of its own members. We spent an entire episode on the BITE model: behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. The Illuminati were doing it in 1776, gathering the secrets, the fears, the soft spots of everyone inside. Information is control. The mechanism is centuries old. At its peak, the order had perhaps 2,000 to 3,000 members. Some were nobody, some were famous. The poet Goethe is associated with it, though how deeply he was involved is debated. For a few years, in a few German states, it was a real network of real people who believed they were enlightening the world. And then it fell apart. not because of an outside enemy, because of itself. Weishaupt was paranoid about his own deputies. He feared they wanted his place. He broke with Nigge, the man who had built the order structure, in 1784. The leadership tore at itself, and as the infighting spilled outward, rumors reached the Bavarian court that this secret society was plotting against religion and the state. On the 2nd of March, 1785, the Elector of Bavaria issued an edict. The order of the Illuminati was banned. Members were imprisoned or driven out. Weishaupt lost his position and fled Bavaria. 9 years. That was the lifespan of the Illuminati, the most powerful secret society in the history of human imagination. Existed for 9 years in one corner of Germany and was destroyed by a duke with a piece of paper. It should have been the end. It was the beginning. Part 2. The raid that created a god. Here is the turning point. The moment a dead order became immortal. In October 1786, Bavarian police raided the house of a senior member named Xavier Zwack. Zwack had been warned, but he didn't have time to destroy everything. The police seized the order's internal documents, the cipher, the calendar, the code names, the membership lists, letters from Weishaupt himself, and other things, notes defending suicide and atheism, plans for a secret order for women, instructions for invisible ink, designs for false seals, and references to poisons. The government did something clever and catastrophic. They published it all. They printed the seized documents and released them to the public as proof of how dangerous the order had been. The goal was to destroy whatever was left of the Illuminati's reputation, to expose them completely. And it worked. The order was finished. But think about what they had actually done. They had taken the private, secret, internal documents of a clandestine society and made them a public book. They had created, with the full authority of the state, a permanent record that said this secret society was real. It had ciphers and code names and hidden plans, and here is the proof. They meant it as an obituary. The world read it as a manual. Because once those documents existed in print, the Illuminati could never die. Anyone in any century could point to them and say, look, they were real, they had secret plans. The government itself confirmed it. Who's to say they ever truly stopped? This is the pattern we have seen in every single episode of this series. Transparency becomes proof of the conspiracy. The exposure becomes the evidence. The very act meant to end the secret becomes the thing that keeps it alive forever. The Bavarian government tried to kill the Illuminati by showing everyone exactly what they were. Instead, they built the altar. Part 3. The survival myth. The order was gone. The myth needed only a spark. It came with the French Revolution. In 1789, the old order of Europe collapsed in blood and fire. Kings fell. The church was attacked. The world that conservatives had known and trusted came apart. And they needed an explanation, not chaos, not 1,000 tangled causes. Something simpler, something with a face. Between 1797 and 1798, 2 men provided it. A French priest named Augustin Baruel and a Scottish scientist named John Robison published books, independently, almost simultaneously, arguing that the Illuminati had not been destroyed in 1785, that they had survived in secret, and that they had orchestrated the French Revolution from the shadows. There was no evidence. The order had vanished from the historical record after the suppression. Historians who have searched find no verifiable trace of a continuous organization. But evidence was never the point. Baruel and Robinson gave frightened people what they needed: a hidden hand behind a terrifying event, the comfort of a villain, the relief of a pattern, and the myth, once born, never stopped feeding. In the 1930s, anti-Semitic and right-wing writers fused the Illuminati with older fantasies of a secret Jewish cabal controlling the world. The same machinery we documented in our episode on the protocols. The Eye of Providence on the dollar bill, a Masonic symbol with no connection to Weishaupt's order, became proof of Illuminati control. Pop culture absorbed it. Novels, films, the whole glittering merchandise of secret society paranoia. And in the 1960s, something stranger happened. Two American writers, Robert Anton Wilson and Kerry Thornley, decided the whole thing was absurd and started deliberately feeding fake Illuminati stories into magazines and underground papers as a joke, as chaos, as a kind of philosophical prank to show how easily people would believe in hidden patterns. Their work, including the Illuminatus trilogy, took an obscure obsession with the number 23 and broadcast it to a generation. The 23 enigma. The idea that this number appears everywhere, that it secretly structures reality if only you know how to look. They meant it as satire. Some people took it as revelation. One of them was a young German named Karl Koch. Part 4. Karl Koch. Karl Koch was born in 1965. By the late 1980s, he was one of a loose group of young German hackers, among the first people on Earth to break into distant computer systems through the early networks, at a moment when almost no one understood what that even meant. He was brilliant. He was troubled. He used drugs, cocaine, heavily, and he was living through a very specific moment in history. Consider what surrounded him. A new technology that let a single person reach into systems across the world, invisible, untraceable, godlike, and deeply paranoia-inducing. The sense that you could see into hidden machinery that others couldn't. Cocaine. A drug that does one thing with terrible efficiency. It accelerates the brain's pattern recognition until everything connects to everything, until coincidence feels like design, until the noise becomes a signal, and a political world in upheaval. The late Cold War. The KGB. Koch and his associates actually did sell hacked Western data to the Soviets. That part was real. He was genuinely entangled with intelligence services, which meant his paranoia had just enough truth in it to feel completely justified. 3 accelerants, new technology, a stimulant that supercharges pattern recognition, and a world where hidden powers really were maneuvering in the dark. And into that combustible mix fell the 23. Koch read Wilson. He absorbed the Illuminatus mythology, and he began to see the number everywhere, in dates, in names, in events. In the hacker scene, he called himself Hagbard Celine, after the novel's hero. He became convinced the Illuminati were real, that they were moving around him, that he was a piece on a board he could almost, but never quite, see. The pattern recognition that made him a gifted hacker was the same faculty that destroyed him. Turned up too high, fed by the drug, confirmed by his real espionage entanglements, it stopped being a tool and became a prison. He tried to get clean. He tried to get out. In the spring of 1989, he seemed, by some accounts, to be pulling back towards stability. In the first volume of the trilogy, the book he took his name from, there is a line that all the great anarchists died on the 23rd of some month. Koch vanished on the 23rd of May. His burned body was found weeks later in a forest near Gifhorn. The authorities ruled it suicide, self-immolation. And there is a version of that story that fits Karl Koch with terrible precision. To die on the 23rd, at 23 years of age, is not the death of an ordinary man. It is the death of someone at the center of the design. If you believed, as he did, that the pattern was watching you, then choosing that date was a final insistence that you mattered to it. And the anonymous forest, rather than some public place, fits too. The invisible hand does not leave a statement. On this reading, Koch arranged his own end to match the grammar of the conspiracy he believed in. But that is not the only version, and honesty requires the other one, because the ruling of suicide has been doubted for more than 30 years, and not only by cranks. Consider the facts that don't sit easily. People who die by self-immolation almost always do it in public. The act is meant to be seen. Koch drove deep into an empty forest where no one could witness anything. The body was severely burned. The undergrowth directly beneath and around it was barely touched, which is difficult to explain if liters of gasoline had been poured and lit at that spot. His shoes were largely undamaged, despite the fire that destroyed his upper body. Investigators have noted that in a self-immolation, the feet and shoes are typically among the most damaged. And the timing. Koch was about to become the most important witness for the federal prosecutor in the coming espionage trial, testifying against his former fellow hackers and the KGB handlers behind the sale of Western data to Soviet intelligence. He had already cooperated extensively with German counterintelligence. Both the KGB and the people he was about to testify against had a clear motive to see him silenced. Members of the Chaos Computer Club, who knew him, accused the police of treating it as suicide from the first moment, of failing to secure the site as a possible crime scene. None of this proves murder. It has never been proven, but it cannot be honestly dismissed either. And here is where Karl Koch's story becomes almost unbearably fitting. Because the one question at the center of his death is the same question that destroyed his mind. Was there a hidden hand, or was there not? He spent his last years seeing patterns that were not real, a secret order moving behind the surface of the world, and then he died as a genuine witness in a genuine espionage case, under circumstances that genuinely do not add up, in a way that genuinely could have served powerful people who wanted him gone. At the end, you cannot tell where his paranoia stopped and reality began. Maybe he arranged his own death in the shape of his obsession, or maybe the one conspiracy he was right about reached out and took him. We will probably never know, and that not knowing is the most honest place this story can end. Conclusion. The pattern without the drug. Whether Karl Koch died by his own hand or another's, one thing is certain. The pattern had already taken him long before the forest. The Illuminati he believed in had been dead for 200 years. The number that haunted him had been planted as a joke by satirists who thought no one would take it seriously. The secret society at the center of it all had been 9 years of squabbling Bavarian intellectuals whose own police files were printed in a public book. None of it was what he thought it was. And it consumed him anyway. That is the power of the pattern. It does not need to be true to be fatal. It only needs a mind ready to receive it, and the right accelerant to set it burning. For Koch, the accelerant was cocaine. But here is the thing that should keep you awake. The believers today don't need it. The architecture that Karl Koch built inside his own head with drugs and isolation, the constant connections, the signal in every coincidence, the certainty that a hidden hand is moving behind the visible world, that architecture is now built for you, by algorithms, by feeds engineered to show you the next link, and the next, and the next, by communities that confirm every suspicion the moment you voice it. QAnon believes today what Koch believed, that a secret cabal controls the world, that the patterns are everywhere, that only the awakened can see them, and they believe it stone cold sober. They don't need the drug. The machine supplies what the cocaine once did. The pattern recognition runs hot, all on its own, fed by an endless stream of confirmation. Karl Koch's tragedy was that he was ahead of his time. He needed a chemical to reach the state that the modern internet now delivers for free to millions every single day, and that is the quiet horror of it. They live longer than Karl Koch did. The pattern doesn't drive them into a forest with a can of gasoline. It drives them into estrangement, into broken families, into a reality so narrow that nothing outside the pattern can reach them anymore. They survive it. You live longer that way, but not necessarily better. This has been Conspiracy Explained, not to debunk, not to mock, to understand. Next, the Freemasons, the brotherhood that everyone has heard of and almost no one understands.